Peace families, Bakari Lumumba back once again, the progenitor of LumumbaSpeaks.com, and I'm back with another video where we're discussing the 4 keys to properly celebrating Black History Month. So with that said, we're going to get right into it. But before discussing those 4 keys, I want to mention I saw a actual short video from Dr. George Fraser where he stated, Black is beautiful is nothing without Black is powerful. I think it's a very powerful statement that he made, and we all understand that where this concept of Black is beautiful came from is pushing back against this Eurocentric version of beauty that's promoted as the standard of beauty. We also understand that that was something that was seminal and critical to the Black Power movement in the 60s and 70s, but also something that was promoted by Marcus Garvey in the 1920s, and also by his ideological son, Carlos Cook, in the African nationalist pioneer movement. But I think it's very important because when we talk about many of the issues that Black people face, not only here in America or in the Western world, but globally, we find Black people suffering from gentrification. We find Black people suffering from police genocide, mass incarceration, lack of access to wealth, and of course, miseducation. And according to Dr. Amos Wilson in his seminal text, Blueprint for Black Power, he argues that all of these issues are rooted in the fact that globally Black people, or African people, suffer from a collective powerlessness, politically, economically, socially, and of course, militarily. So I would argue and agree with Dr. George Fraser that Black is beautiful is nothing without Black is being powerful. With that being said, we're going to jump right into the 4 keys to properly celebrating Black History Month. The first key is to understand that Black history is Pan-African history. Why do I say that? Many people would argue that Black history is American history. I vehemently disagree with that position. Why? Black history is part of American history, but Black history is not American history because our history did not start here in America. It is very important that we understand this because many white historians would argue that our history started once we came in contact with them. In fact, during the chattel enslavement, many white people would tell us we didn't have any history until we came in contact with white folk. We know that's not true. We have a history that ranges from antiquity till today, right? And that our history started in which we were the fathers and mothers of humanity and human civilization in the Nile Valley. So our history started with pyramids, not projects and tenements. Very important that we understand that. Second, I believe it's very important that any Black history celebration that wants to be taken seriously mentions Dr. Carter G. Woodson. Who is Dr. Carter G. Woodson? He's the founder and creator of the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. He's the second African American to gain a PhD from Harvard University. He received his doctorate in history. Du Bois, of course, was the first who received his doctorate in sociology. But also, Dr. Carter G. Woodson is the creator of Negro History Week, which later became Black History Month. So when people push back and say, no, we shouldn't celebrate Black History Month, they gave us the shortest month of the year. We know that's not the case. Dr. Carter G. Woodson chose February because it has the birthdays of what? Frederick Douglass and, of course, Abraham Lincoln. Why Abraham Lincoln? I don't know. But last but not least about Dr. Carter G. Woodson, he also wrote a book in 1933 entitled The Miseducation of the Negro, which unfortunately, if you read it today, you would think he wrote it yesterday. So that kind of shows the lack of psychological and educational progress we've made as a people. So number 3, in celebrating Black History Month, I think it's very important that we understand that Black History Month is actually the progenitor of many other peoples celebrating their own history, heritage, and culture. For example, March is Women's History Month. April is Latino History and Heritage Month. May is Jewish History Heritage Month. And of course, October is LGBTQ History and Heritage Month. So when people push back and say celebrating Black History Month is promoting racial separation or racial balkanization and Black separatism, you could tell them, if you feel that way, I need to keep that same energy with women's history, Latino history, LGBTQ history, Jewish history, Oktoberfest, etc., etc. We know they don't do that because what we're dealing with is anti-Black racism, which of course is an antagonistic relationship between Blackness and the possibility of humanity. Why do we say the possibility of humanity? Because we know that we as a people are still fighting today for our rights as human beings, right? We're still fighting to be recognized as human beings because we know that unfortunately with the history and chattel enslavement, we are the only people who have ever dealt with any type of enslavement or oppression in which we were stripped of our humanity, and we're still fighting to have that recognized, not only here in America or in the Western world, but globally as a people. And then last and not least, I believe it's very important that we engage in agency and, of course, Black History Month celebrations. I could recall my daughter's school when she was in kindergarten, they had a Black History Month celebration, and it was simply Rosa Parks sat down, one man and one quote. And we know that one man, one quote was simply, Dr. King, I have a dream. And I actually reached out to the director of a school and stated that this Black History Month is disrespectful to Black people all over the world. And she said, why is that? I said, I'm going to tell you why. I'm so glad you asked. I said, we are people whose history spans from antiquity to today, and the only thing we've accomplished is one man, one quote, when Rosa Parks sat down. So I believe that whenever you highlight an issue or a problem, you better be able to what? Provide a solution. If not, you'll let white people solve the problem. They're going to engage in an interest convergence, in which on the face it looks like they're helping us, but in the long run, they're benefiting, right? And so I made sure that when I ran the Black History Month celebration, we engaged in understanding and promoting African cultural retention and African American culture. We talked about, of course, promoting Pan-Africanism, and we talked about promoting Black women in the civil rights and Black power movement and their contributions to the struggle. So with that said, I want to once again, 5 keys actually to properly celebrating Black History Month. We know Black is beautiful, but we also want to promote Black is powerful. Black History Month is really Pan-African History Month. Black history is not American history, it's simply part of American history, right? Our history started what? Pyramids as the fathers and mothers of humanity, not in chattel enslavement, projects and tenements. Number 2, understanding that no Black History Month celebration is complete or properly being held without mentioning Dr. Carter G. Woodson, who created Negro History Week, which later became Black History Month. Number 3, Black History Month actually is the progenitor of other people celebrating their history, heritage, and cultures. So when people look to push back against Black History Month and argue that it's promoting racial balkanization or Black separatism, you tell them, keep that same energy with everyone else, then I'll take you serious, right? And then last but not least, understand that we have to have agency in celebrating Black History Month to make sure that our children are being properly educated, that the focus is on not only the Nile Valley culture, but the great things that we did in the Western Sudan with the Western Sudanic empires of Mali, Ghana, and Songhai, Great Zimbabwe. And of course, if chattel enslavement is talked about, they're given a true history of that. They talked about the over 350 documented slave revolts. We're talking about the successful slave revolts, not just Amistad, not just Nat Turner, not just Denmark Vesey, not just Toussaint Overture in Haiti, but we're also talking about the Maroons that created autonomous communities in Brazil and Florida. We're talking about the Black Seminoles who helped offer a reprieve to the indignities of chattel enslavement here in the United States of America. But last but not least, we understand that Black history is in each and every one of us. So with that being said, thank you for your time. Make sure you hit the subscribe and like button. Till then, peace.